The Florida Gators hit the bye week, and UF fans might be bored this week without a game on Saturday, but the coaching staff is still working the recruiting trail, trying to put the final touches on that 2024 recruiting class. In this video, we're going to talk about UF's chances to add a 5-star defensive lineman, and we're also going to take a look at the Gators 2025 QB board. But first, UF fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We just got this thing cranked up like 5 or 6 weeks ago. We need Gator fans to be a part of it. Hit subscribe. All right, let's get it going and bring on Corey Bender from Gators Online for more. Corey, 2025 QBs, they're coming off the board at a rapid pace, but you know we got to talk LJ McCray, the 6'6", 275-pound, 5-star defensive lineman, announces on Saturday. So, Corey, we're basically like in the red zone of this recruitment. You know, we're inside the 20. What are your sources telling you about McCray's upcoming decision?
Yeah, for me personally, I've been saying for months, I think it comes down to Georgia, Florida State, and Florida. Auburn and Miami, they're still in the picture. They got OVs. Auburn just got them on campus a few weeks ago, but based off of the sources I've spoken to, I think those schools are kind of distant behind the other three. And, I think it's one of those recruitments, too, in recent memory that I can't remember that, having a kid, this elite, having a decision less than a week away where there's so much suspense. And I think McCray has done a good job of doing that as far as not revealing too much and making these programs guess. And from what I've been told as well, he hasn't informed the school that he's going to yet. So I know of several schools, those three I mentioned, have been somewhat optimistic. They feel like they've done enough to land him. But I also know all three schools would not be surprised if he went elsewhere. So I think with Florida, the biggest thing for Florida is the proximity. They got him on campus more than any other school. Obviously, he's getting the red carpet treatment. That's the case at all these schools. But I think when you break down Florida overall from A to Z, it's, the comfort level, feeling like a top priority. But also, he mentioned to me, it's kind of like a rebuild project, kind of similar to what he went to at Mainland. And it's funny hearing him say that because you have Georgia on his list, who's the complete opposite. So he's making people guess around. All these schools bring different things to the table, and those are all things he likes about those schools. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's some level of confidence coming out of every school involved in this recruitment. Let's do something fun for now. If it's not Florida, let's take Florida out of the equation. If he's not going to Florida, where do you think he's going?
Yeah, if he's not going to Florida, I think he goes to Florida State. And I say that, and even dating back to about March time, talking to people around, people would ask me, hey, where do you think he's leaning? And I always would say, it's very close for Florida and Florida State. They're both in-state. They both got, at the time, about the same amount of visits. But it just seemed like I felt like Florida State got a better jump in his recruitment compared to Florida early on. And we'll see if that bolts true. But also, getting him for an in-season OV when all the other finalists didn't, I thought that was a really good strategy by FSU if he does go there. I know some people might look at that and think it's kind of risky. These other schools get him for OVs, but you want to wait it out. I think that shows the confidence in Tallahassee as far as the season they thought they were going to have, and they thought that atmosphere would definitely be a huge factor, and that's what I'm looking at. They got the most recent visit, and I just think there's been a lot of momentum there from the start.
Yeah, I think every team involved has kind of had their moment in the sunshine, but it does seem like FSU has a lot of buzz heading into Saturday. We'll see what happens there. Let's transition over to 2025 QB board because 2025 QBs are coming off the board at a rapid pace. Already about a third of the top 10 is committed and more to come soon. Gators 2025 QB targets include Antoine Hill, Ryan Montgomery, and Tremel Jones, who is committed to FSU. Now, of course, this is kind of the narrow focus as of now. It could broaden and widen, and more likely than not will. But let's start with Antoine Hill. He was out in Colorado last Thursday for that game against Stanford. The 4-star QB is ranked number 7 overall. He's out of Georgia. What are the Gators doing here? Is he a main priority?
Yeah, no, so he's a big priority, and early on he was a priority as well, and there's kind of a stall in his recruitment. So William Peetler, the former tight ends coach for Florida, he went to the Arizona Cardinals. He coached his cousin at Georgia years back, so that was the connection in place. That was the coach he spoke to. So from about March to about August, there was kind of a little bit of slight communication, and obviously, once August 1st hit, though, that all picked up. And, right now, I would definitely put him in that top 3 option for Florida. I know from, seeing on Twitter and the fan base, I feel like that's the popular name to most Florida fans that they really want in the class. And, he came on campus once earlier in the season. He was on campus in the offseason and then another game last year. I think right now Florida definitely has some room to make up, though. I would probably say they're more the back end of the top 5 for him. That's where I would put them. He was supposed to come on campus a few weeks ago, but actually couldn't make it. And it's still very early, but I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity for Florida to really kind of get the wheels back in motion. But Florida's definitely on the short list. I think mutual interest isn't high, and it's kind of a wait and see, though. He's not near a decision anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, I caught up with Antoine Hill earlier this week, and I will post the video in the description comment below. Ryan Montgomery, I also spoke to him. I'll put that video in the description below as well. Ryan Montgomery is a 4-star, number 17 ranked quarterback in the country. Now, he's out of Ohio, and it seems like it's coming down to South Carolina and Florida. It might be a good sign for Florida that Ryan Montgomery was at that South Carolina game to see Graham Mertz throw that dart to win it. What is going on with Ryan Montgomery, and how high up is he on the QB board?
Very high on the board. And I think right now he's the most realistic option for Florida for quarterback recruiting for next cycle. Even over the summer when I spoke to him, he said Ryan O'Hara, the offensive analyst at Florida, who's basically the unofficial quarterbacks coach for the Gators, that he said that was the best relationship he had in the process. Florida's the school he did the most Zoom calls with. And, he came to campus over the summer, had a great time, had a lot of one-on-one time with the coaches. Came back from Tennessee, so that was another big-time opportunity and a good showing for Florida. And like you said, Josh, went to Columbia and saw arguably his top two teams. And I think if you're Florida and you're Ryan O'Hara and Billy Napier, you got to kind of be smiling behind the scenes knowing, hey, we just had a great opportunity to show this guy what we can do. And it was also a much-needed road win to kind of show the growth of the program as well. And I think right now, I still think it's Florida and South Carolina. You have schools like Penn State and Auburn in the mix too, and Michigan. But the interesting thing with Ryan Montgomery, I spoke to his dad earlier this week. He was supposed to come back possibly for the Arkansas game. That's not going to happen. He might come back for the FSU game and then make a decision in February. The good thing for Florida is the plan is to come back to Florida in January, spend a few days on campus, both parents. And I think if he doesn't visit other schools during that time frame, that would set up Florida, with a recent visit close to that decision timeline. And if you're a Florida fan, it's too early to put in a prediction, but you break down his recruitment and look at that commitment timeline, you got to be feeling pretty good if you're a Florida coach.
Yeah, and these guys are going to be coming off the board all at the same time because Antoine Hill, he told me that he wants to make a decision in December or January. Ryan Montgomery says February. We talked with George McIntyre. He says the spring. Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback, is going to make his decision in early January. So this is prime recruiting time for 2025 quarterbacks. Now this one, though, might be a little bit more of a long play. Tramel Jones out of Jacksonville. He's committed to FSU. He's a 3-star, the number 27 ranked quarterback in the country. But he's been to Gainesville quite a few times, right? What's going on with him and the Gators?
Yeah, so Florida, he was the first quarterback I believe Florida offered other than Colin Hurley before he reclassified. So Tramel Jones is a guy Florida saw in person. They evaluated him at a camp, and offered him shortly after that. And he came on campus several times after that. And from when he told me, his father grew up a Florida fan and, obviously he's committed to Florida State, but I know there's still some interest there. When he came back to camp over the summer, Billy Napier kind of took a personal approach, really walked over to him and really told him, hey, you're the guy we want. They're going to, once August 1st hits, we're going to be contacting you left and right. And they've lived up to that word. He's still getting the full court press from Florida. From Florida. And if he was to flip, which I think right now is not likely, I think Florida would be that choice. But we'll see. I think this is more of a long-term play by Florida. Right. They definitely like him. They know he's obviously happily committed to FSU, but they feel good behind the scenes, just slowly chipping away, and hopefully over time they can change his mind. But definitely, I think those three are the most realistic right now. But as you said, Josh, things could change.
Yeah, and it's a great list of quarterbacks. I think Ryan Montgomery right now, that's kind of where I think the chips will fall for Florida, but we'll see what happens throughout the rest of the fall. Corey, enjoy your bye week. I know there could be some big news on Saturday, so we'll keep an eye on Gators Online throughout the weekend. But thank you for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop.
Yep. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.